Not only will prolonged and persistent stress from anxiety make it more likely to form bad and unhealthy habits, but can have a direct impact on your body's hormonal balance as well, which can pretty much mess with your metabolism. Being highly anxious completely depletes our energy levels. If you're anything like me, you might know this feeling. I jumped in and out of panic attacks all day, every day, and I was mentally and physically completely drained. All I wanted to do was crawl into bed and hope for all of this to somehow magically pass. Unfortunately, we are so wound up that no matter how tired we feel, our body and mind will find a way to suck out even that last bit of energy out of us. So as you can imagine, that for many of us, most days are characterized by feeling sleep deprived, helpless, depressed, tired, and exhausted, and we are basically just trying to get through and survive yet another day of terror. In a state like this, it's so easy to feel unmotivated to cook a healthy, colorful, and well-balanced meal, and often we might not even find a reason why we should even bother to do so. This often leads us to getting fast and cheap takeout meals, or pre-made, pre-packed foods from the store. Not only are these often very high in calories, but in most cases plain unhealthy, which down the road can lead to even more worries and more stress. Take me as an example. I used to eat some kind of comfort food on a daily basis, and I can swear that whenever I was finished with the meal, I felt horrible and disgusted right away. You must understand that I had severe health anxiety, especially about plaque buildup in my arteries. So after indulging in that cholesterol-rich and fatty meal, all I could think about was those fat molecules slowly sticking onto my arteries. And the crazy thing is, even knowing that these thoughts will pop up in my head, they couldn't stop me from going back and getting those same fatty foods again and again. Not only was it just so convenient, but it became a real addiction for me, and I guess for many of you out there as well. And the reason for this is plain and simple. A lot of the fast food we eat is heavily processed and manufactured in a way that it creates a temporary spike of endorphins, which boosts our happiness and energy levels, which is exactly what we need and long for. Unfortunately, this spike is only short-lived, and we end up craving this feeling again. For a lot of us, this rush while eating can feel like a short-term relief from all the negative emotions running through our heads, and the only time in the day we feel at least a little bit of joy. We with anxiety not only often feel too exhausted, but also fear physical activity altogether. We are so concerned with our health and our body's state, and that's why, in return, try our very best to not put it under even more strain. It is very common that exercise fires up a lot of physical sensations that actually can trigger panic attacks, which then reinforces the fear of exercise even more. So not only do we crave fatty and sugary foods, but also are restricting our activity levels. We eat more calories than we burn, and so of course we'll end up gaining weight. And some of you might be drinking a lot of alcohol, as it's often used to numb the mental and physical sensations of stress, and may feel like some temporary relief from all the worries. But not only are you damaging your body, slowing down your recovery process, but alcohol is also extremely calorie dense. In 500 milliliters of beer, for example, you find roughly 220 calories. So drinking just 2 pints a day can add another easy 440 calories to your diet. That is almost 25% of the daily average calorie intake recommendation of 2000 calories. That's a huge chunk of calories for just a few beverages. And also, as mentioned in the beginning of the video, being as stressed out as we with anxiety issues are, and that for such a prolonged period of time, can have a huge impact on our hormonal balance. And this hormonal balance regulates how we metabolize and store calories, plus also has a direct influence on our feeling of hunger and fullness. When our brain believes that we are in danger, no matter if from an actual life-threatening threat or from tight deadlines at work, it will always react the exact same way. It will send out a cocktail of hormones throughout your bloodstream, with the two main ones being adrenaline and cortisol. These hormones will prepare the body for action in order to fight or flee from the threat. In those moments of high stress, the adrenaline will actually stop you from feeling hungry, but as the levels slowly normalize, the cortisol will signal to your body that it's now time to refeed and restore energy after successfully beating off that threat. Back in the days, this made sense, as fighting off a lion did actually use up a lot of energy. But in today's world, the threats we face are in most cases just in our heads, and no extensive physical action is required to solve these. Unfortunately, for many of us with anxiety, we jump in and out of this process multiple times a day, and so the body and mind want to do us a favor here and tend to store up a lot of fat in our belly area, so we have an ample supply of energy for future use. As you can imagine, going against this, let's call it addiction for high-fat, sugary foods, and against our body's natural response to store fat in our waist area, is not going to be something easy. But there are things that can make it a lot easier. One of the most important things I have implemented into my routine to jumpstart my fat loss and also anxiety recovery journey was meal prepping. 2 to 3 times a week, I would cook up a couple of healthy, high-protein meals and just store them nicely organized in the fridge or freezer for a quick and healthy meal for the next few days. Instead of having to force yourself to get up and cook every meal, you just do it twice in a week. Trust me on this one, guys. If you want to lose weight and live healthier, doing this is crucial. At least it was for me. It makes it just so much easier to stick to your goals. And it doesn't only help with losing weight, but you feel more energized, healthy, less anxious, save money, and build up self-confidence as you're finally sticking to a plan and working on yourself. And high-protein meals take longer to digest and accelerate your metabolism, which means you feel full for longer and actually burn more calories. Also exercise, guys. Just too important not to do it. During exercise, our body releases endorphins, which makes us feel happier and more well-balanced. Plus, it reduces our perception of pain. It's everything that we with anxiety need. I know how difficult it can be to get yourself up and running, but one thing that I kept reinforcing into my mind was that having an anxiety disorder was the worst thing that has happened to me, and anything I do can't be as bad as just keep living with the status quo. Build up a strong routine around tackling your anxiety, and exercise is one of the strongest tools at your disposal for exactly this. Be proactive and give it all you've got, and you will recover. Thanks for watching, everyone, and if you're new here and want to see more anxiety related content just like this one, consider subscribing.